Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tech Files Dose of Common Sense. If common sense is supposed to be so common, how come it seems like no damn body has it? And good evening, good morning, whatever the case may be. Welcome to the Dose of Common Sense. How you doing? I know it's a little early on Monday morning in your neck of the woods, possibly Monday afternoon. In the case of my listeners in Australia, very late afternoon on Monday. Don't worry, this won't be a long one. I just wanted to check on a couple of things and say hello in the process. First off, the Galaxy S8 Active has finally made an appearance. And oh my God, it's not ugly. Thank you, Jesus. Anyway, the S8 Active leak that we have on hand, well, first of all, it's not ugly, thank God. Then it comes with a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, roughly the same dimensions, except for when it comes to the thickness. And then it's going to be 1.5 times thicker than what the S8 or the S8 Plus had. Basically, this thing is rigged to be dropped, to be thrown, to be used, abused, and come out the other side looking like a winner. Not a wiener, a winner. So, the link to the article will be in the description. And anyone interested in the phone itself, I will let you know as we get more details here in TechFile Studios. Also, here comes a good one here. We're getting the last minute data in. Yeah, there we go. Alright. So, for those of you who have managed to bootloop your Nexus 6P and your 5X, there is a fix, possibly, for this. The fine people over at Android Authority wrote an article detailing the problem and also detailing a possible solution. The solution itself can be found over in the XDA forums. The description of the solution and the problem will be in the link in the description. Needless to say, what it does is it takes the non-energy efficient cores that belong to the Snapdragon SoC inside. It takes them down and offline, and it lets the low power cores do the work that needs to be done in order to lay down the core files and the lib files and everything to where it operates the way it should. Now, given the fact that, and this is just a thought, given the fact that this does fix a boot loop issue for the 5X, which we all know was built by LG, home of the boot loop, I'm thinking if there's some enterprising young whippersnapper out there that isn't afraid to have this fail, here's the thought. Let's see if it'll work on the G3 or the G4. And let's see if it will do that without too much tweaking or bugging. Because other than that, the only way that you're going to fix this issue is to wait on the class action lawsuit right now that is being brought against LG for the very same problem. If anybody's anything like me, I'm not a patient person. When it comes to boot loops and issues with phones that are not necessarily developed or created by myself, I would rather come to a solution that I can actually do myself and have the problem fixed. So, once again, the link to the story is in the show description. If I were you, though, I would venture on over to the XDA forums, look up Nexus 6P, look up Nexus 5X. I'm pretty sure that will be in any one of those threads. And I will also be following the story up probably tomorrow when we put our regular schedule program out. Now, another thing that's come up today is Jules Wayne over at Pocket Now went looking around his news sources and found out something very interesting. Microsoft has a patent Microsoft has a patent being contested right now with the United States Patent Office for essentially could be a flip phone thingy, maybe. Don't panic. Don't get your hopes up either, because this is not the Surface phone. Looks like it's only going to have less than 2,000 milliamp hour of battery power. Looks like the display is going to be very, very minuscule at best. And given the fact that it alone is a flip device, odds are it's probably going to be a hotspot. So, I don't know. That kind of leaves the whole thing of a mobile device from Microsoft a little laughable, considering they had the perfect chance to come out looking like winners with Windows Phone and Surface, and have managed to F that up beyond all recognition. Don't ask me why. Well, no, ask me why, because I'm giving my opinion on this. Let's just put it this way. When Stephen Elop sold Nokia to Microsoft back in, I believe it was 2013, deep down I think Microsoft thought they were getting a windfall. And then when they wrote the entire purchase of Nokia off in one of their quarterly reports, they figured, okay, we got this great big abilified smartphone production unit, and we have no idea what in the hell are we going to do with this. Meanwhile, leaving all their other customers out in the cold. I know I would have loved to have had the next version of the Lumia 1020. I would have loved to have had the regular version of the Lumia 1020. However, given the fact that neither one of those are going to appear unless some act of God or Stephen Elop decides he's suddenly going to change his mind and give the people what they want, well, it isn't Stephen Elop, excuse me. But I don't think we're going to see Surface Phone come into the picture anytime soon, if ever. I think we might be ready to plug the final nails into the Windows Phone coffin after the wreckfest dumpster fire trash bin that it has become after the Lumia 830, the Lumia 950, the Lumia 950 XL, which was a dumpster fire in itself. Any one of those devices I would have liked to have had, but Microsoft, I guess, just seemed like they were perfectly willing to screw over the public that had already gone on board thanks to Nokia and what they started. And it looks like Nokia is going to fix that wagon, just not with Windows. I wouldn't either. So, another thing that came up as well, this was actually from Saturday. The Pokemon Go Festival in Chicago went off, and then it went off the tracks. Apparently, they had so many people try to log in to the servers at Niantic, which they actually brought local servers in to attempt, feebly, to fight what was going to be an overload. And they failed rather miserably, to the point where refunds are being issued for all of those who registered for the event and possibly even participated in the event. I'm not certain on the exacts, but let's just say the Pokemon Go went Pokemon bust. And that, while sad for the lovers of Pokemon Go, I don't know what to make of this. It proves that Pokemon is still a very, very viable franchise in 2017, despite the fact that we're dealing with parts of a game that's technically over 20 years old. It proves that the franchise is still worth going. The issue with it is you've got to get a game and game aspects that are 20 years old, and you have to bring them into 2017 along with everything that comes with it. Needless to say, Niantic was not prepared. Nobody was prepared for this. So hopefully, if they decide to have a festival, or even if they reschedule it for later this year, hopefully it will be very good, and hopefully they will be able to catch themselves before they go and fall on their face. Next up is going to be Lyft. Lyft upped the ante on Uber this week, and they're going to start their own self-driving car division. Now, I'm not sure exactly. I mean, Uber needs competition, don't get me wrong on that. Uber has been basically one big monopoly since the minute they came into the forum. They've gotten driven out of several different cities because of various things, whether it be criminal background checks, whether it be a total lack of discipline on Uber's part, whether it would be, you name it, it's probably happened. But Lyft upping the ante on Uber, okay, that's fine. But starting the self-driving car division that is not really going to manifest anything until next year at the earliest, I'm not going to really get my hopes up on this, to be honest with you. My personal thing is, you have Google doing self-driving, you have Apple doing self-driving, you have Tesla even going so far as to put autonomous driving in vehicles. Of course, they have more warnings than any racetrack when it comes to, hey, if you engage autonomous mode, we're not responsible if you turn yourself into a sandwich by doing something stupid, which I think is wise. I think that is where they're supposed to be at on this. Let the self-driving industry take care of its own. You know, GM's getting into this. Chrysler, I think, is thinking about getting into this if they're not already in it. Just let it go of its own course. I think that with any good thing, it takes time. Unfortunately, some people have gotten a big head start. The biggest group that's had the head start of them all just happens to be a company that actually is producing cars for the public. Albeit very expensive cars for the public. They're still creating cars for the public. And the public has a taste of the self-driving vehicles almost every time they want to enable the option. So just, you know, my advice to everybody is just let's stand back off of this self-driving craze. Let's let everybody just smooth out the wrinkles, and, you know, let's just get to the bottom of this. You know, it's not going to be overnight. Okay? This is not going to be an overnight thing. This is not going to be a one-shot fix-all. This is not going to be, okay, well, they're into the self-driving thing now. Okay? And at the same time, this isn't going to be fixed tomorrow either. This is going to happen over the course of years. I mean, you're looking into 2021, 2022, minimum for this car. And I'm going to say that minimum because, as with everything that comes to the fore, even the Internet of Things, I mean, even Google Home and Alexa and smart refrigerators, God. Okay, here's the way you have a smart refrigerator. In order to have a really smart refrigerator, you have to have a very smart housekeeper or a very smart family. Simon says it's really easy to tell when the broccoli's gone bad. When it turns brown, I think it's pretty bad. So, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here. Please excuse me, I'm sorry. Getting better, we're not all the way there yet. So, here's my question to you, right off the bat. What do you think of the self-driving car? I know for those of you that own a Tesla, it's not that bad of an issue at all. I know for those of us that have test-driven a Tesla, it's pretty cool. And then you find out about the downfalls, and it's like, maybe not. Let's just let it settle itself out first. Speaking of Tesla, Elon Musk has had, it appears he's had written authorization to either begin or start a study for a New York, Washington, Philadelphia route through his boring company that will reduce time between New York, Washington, and Philadelphia to about 29 minutes, which would be awesome. The only problem I see with this is, number one, you don't even have an act of Congress, much less something written in place. Okay? So there is that. Not to mention you have the regulatory agencies of the United States government, the District of Columbia, the state of New York, the city of New York, the city of Philadelphia, and the state of Pennsylvania. And the last time I checked, they're all not owned, but they're all have different wings of political parties in power. And my bet is nothing's going to be solid or concrete on this anytime soon. So don't get your hopes up that high. However, though, if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to send them to me at show, SHOW, at techfilesmedia.com. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at techfiles or techfilesmedia. One of the things that I'm trying to do, as well as, describe for you the world of tech, give you my opinions and my advice, is also go into things like if you have problems with. One of the things that I've noticed that a lot of people have problems with is, and this almost doesn't matter which one it is, whether it be Android or iOS. I've had people come up to me several different times in the last week or so and say, hey, we go and make phone calls, but when we make the phone calls, one particular problem comes to be, and that's when we turn on our phones to initiate a phone call. We'll be in the middle of the phone call and it won't complete the call. Or we'll be in this particular application and it won't work properly. Or the phone seems to do what's known as freeze up. Okay? Now, a couple of things that I want to tell you right off the bat. If you have an Android or iOS phone, the very first thing you need to do is you need to register for an email address with said platform. If you have iOS, you need either an iCloud.com email address or you need a Gmail address if you are with Android. Here's why. Phones have applications on them. Every phone does. Even if you say, well, I've never put an application on it since the day I've had it. You don't have to. There's at least 50 to 60 applications. Some of them not even part of any application that you pick. And they're registered with Google. And in order for them to update, two things have to happen. One, you have to have an email address. That way Google can register the product. because otherwise it's not going to even get a signal that it has an update for it. 2, even when you do that, the very first thing to do when you have completed startup of your new phone is you need to go to the Google Play Store. Here is why. Go to the Google Play Store, and the little slide out menu that slides out from the left side of the screen, slide that out. Go to the settings part of the menu. Press it. 2 things will happen. The very first thing it will say, and I'm almost willing to bet house, home, and kitties on all of this. Contrary to what should be done, 9 times out of 10 when you go to the Google Play Store, unless of course you've backed it up, it will say update apps over Wi-Fi only. Now that's all well and good if you have a Wi-Fi network at home, because then you can update them Wi-Fi only. But if you have a phone with an unlimited plan because you don't have Wi-Fi at home, then you have a problem. So the best thing I would do is I would go to the Play Store, and the very first thing I would do is take the part where it says update over Wi-Fi only and change it. Especially if you have an unlimited plan. And I would pick update at any time, and it'll give you a warning about data. Yes, you're well aware of the data. Okay? That's the reason you got a phone with an unlimited plan to start with. The only issue you have that is with iOS. If you have an application that is over 100 megabytes and Apple has deemed it such, then you need to update the iOS application over Wi-Fi. That's not too hard in this day and age either. Just roll into a Starbucks or roll close by it, or even go by McDonald's anymore, man. And, connect with their Wi-Fi network. It's usually not secured. It's usually a guest network. And update the apps. Very first thing to do. Then what I would do is once you updated the apps, especially if you're on the Google Play Store, we're going to go back there. Go down to where it says Google Play version. Tap on it. In other words, touch on that space. If it says your Google version is up to date, then you're fine. Skip that step. If you're not, and it says a new version of Google Play will be downloaded and installed, here is what you do. Close every application, leave it be, and let it update. Even Google Play services. Now, Google Play services, you normally can't search from the search bar and find it. Unless, of course, you're in the middle of updating. If you're in the middle of updating an application, it will definitely let you know it. Because there will wait, and it will wait, and it will wait. Just choose to update the Play services. Once the Play services is updated, let everything update on the phone the way it's supposed to be. Turn the phone off. Not screen off, power off. Wait about 2 minutes. Turn back on the phone. Okay? Once you turn back on the phone, give it a minute to catch up with everything there is, and then try to initiate your call. My bet to you is that at that point, you will not have a problem with doing that. At that point, everything should be okay, the call should be initiated, and everything should be fine. The only thing I ask that you do, though, is if you do have Google, and you do have a Gmail account, and you do switch phones, be sure you know what your password is, and be sure as a backup phone number, you have what your phone number is. Because even if you do not know your Google password when you log in, or let's say something happens to your phone and you have to reset it, you still have to sign in with the Google password. If you do not sign in with your Google password, depending on how you reset the phone, it could take up to 72 hours for you to get your password back. Unless you've backed it up to the phone number, in which case it'll say, is this phone number yours? You select yes, it sends you a 6-digit code, and then you can change the password. When you change the password, write it down. That way you know what it is. Okay? However, normally with most iOS phones, it doesn't normally come that bad. iOS has a couple of different trips that will prevent you from losing all of your data. Or at least it will try to. Best thing I can tell you with an iOS device is back it up regularly to iTunes. That way if you ever do switch devices, it's very easy to sync up all the data. For example, if you go from an iPhone 6 to an iPhone 7 Plus, be sure before you switch the phone that you have a complete backup of your data. Okay, that's another one. The next one I would tell you, and this only attributes to Android phones, and God knows why, I still don't know. Android phones that still have 16 gigabytes, my firm belief they should be blown up. Every once in a while, you will have stuff really starting to act funky, and I mean funky. You'll hit a button in Android, and it'll seem like it'll take 5 minutes to solve this particular problem. There's a couple of different ways to fix that. Number one is to check what memory is left. If you get below a gig, things start acting a little weird. If you get below 500 megabytes, it really starts acting weird. If you get to the point where it gets 250 megabytes or lower, you're going to have services fail. Always keep a minimum of about 2 gig free. This way the phone can do exactly what it's supposed to do without any problems at all. Those are the 2 fastest fixes for the 2 most complained about problems as far as Android goes. If you have a phone that has room for an SD card, put the SD card in the phone. Biggest pet peeve of mine. Someone buys a phone and only has 16 gigs. And then they turn around and say, well, I can't get this to go on. Okay, well, let me look at the phone. You see how much memory is left, and it's 160 megs. At that point, the phone wouldn't be able to squawk wind without something majorly going on with the phone. So, just keep as much memory clear on the Android phone as possible. Make sure your iOS and Android files are up to date, and you will have relatively smooth sailing. Now, I know that people that love to tinker, those of us tech experts, the ones that aren't afraid to go to XDA developers and find their way to fix stuff, we'll tell you all about it. We'll tell you all about how we did it. We'll tell you how we did it. Heck, we'll even tell you where to go and give you the link to get you there. If you don't know what you're doing or you have any questions about any of it, don't. It's the quickest way to turn a $600 phone into the world's most expensive paperweight. At that point, not very many people can help you. I have a lot of people that come to me with unlocked phones and they ask the very same question. Well, I've done this. Well, what did you do? And they will either download something that the phone is completely not able to do, or they will download a ROM for the wrong phone. if you're into the custom ROM business, the very first thing that I would do is I would search through the thread to make sure that no one else has experienced a problem with it. And they will even warn you, if your phone goes nuclear because you did not follow their directions, they are not to blame. And they're very truthful on that. So if you have any questions about your phone, and it doesn't seem like any one of us has any advice or ways to fix it, and trust me, I've been messing with devices since 2009. Show at techfilesmedia.com. I can help you. For some reason, those of us that love to tinker are the ones that screw up our phone the most. And it's because we simply want the phone to run better. And sometimes we don't always manage to succeed. So, just a few tips from me to you on how you can keep your phone running in tip-top shape. So, while we're talking about keeping things into tip-top shape, I have recently come across, believe it or not, Leeco still has phones for sale in the United States. Now, Leeco, of course, is the same company as Leeco in China. It's the Chinese version of Netflix. They are also, or were also, a very heavy investor in Faraday Future. And they came into the United States with a lot of panache and a lot of flair and a lot of fire. And, well, lately it's turned out to look like one big drowned desert rat. Well, apparently the Leeco Pro 3 is still for sale, and it's $238. Now, the phone's not spec'd half bad. Now, I'd put a new launcher in it within seconds, but the phone's not that bad. I'd love to get my hands on it just to prove that it isn't. I've had very, very many people ask me the following question. And these are usually people that have already went through a lot of the mid-tier phones. They don't like spending a lot of money for their phones. They like spending mid-tier money and trying to get as much value as they possibly can. First thing I'd recommend to them is something like the OnePlus 5. Yes, I recommend the OnePlus 5. Even though some of them have jelly screens, and even though they have cheated on benchmarks, it doesn't stop it from being a good phone, guys. It just means that, like every company, they do hit bumps in the road when it comes to, very simply, public relations. No one's perfect at it. Is it worth the money? Absolutely, it's worth the money. $238 for a phone that is unlocked globally, that is available for any carrier with minimal bloatware. Even though the UI is not completely stock Android, I would jump at the chance for this. Probably not going to happen for me, but it doesn't stop you guys from going after it. I would say if you can get a phone like that for $238, jump. If you can get a phone like the Nexus 6P or the Nexus 5X, jump. Now, I know I just talked about boot looping issues for those two phones, but in all seriousness, there's nothing wrong with them. That's simple. Now, for all you Apple fans out there, The Rock has decided to make the most action-packed, sexy, funny movie that lasts about 4 minutes. For all of you who are interested in checking out this, it's easy to find. It's on YouTube. Just look up Apple, Siri, and The Rock. That's it. And he's right. It's funnier than hell. And he names the word Siri about 14 times. And, of course, there's no problems in it. Because, of course, it's The Rock and it's a movie. But I just figured I'd throw that in there for some fun and games. So if you want to check out the story, The Verge has it. The link's in the description on the show. But I would definitely check that out. If you're interested in the video, look it up. It's also on YouTube. So a little bit ago, I had also put out a request for people to tell me what their daily drivers were. Here's the surprise that I'm getting. Now, I do have international listeners from all over the world. And I have also been asked not to give names, but to just give devices. So I will. And here they are. Sony Xperia Z1. Ironically, that's still a good phone to this day. Xperia Z5, not so much. Z5 Compact, okay. A lot of Sony's devices lately, if it's not the Compact, I wouldn't put that much stock in it just yet. I would wait for them to hopefully come out with better. I would also give one the Moto Z in any form, as long as it's unlocked and not with Verizon. I would go with that one as well. There's two phones right there that I would immediately go for. HTC 10 would be another one. If you can run into an iPhone that's unlocked, yes, I know I'm technically an Android fanboy. If you can run into an iPhone that's locked, that's not 16 gigs, go for it. If you just want a phone that simply works, you have one. There it is. Run with it. iPhone 7 Plus, it's new. You're still going to pay a lot of money for it, but you're still going to get a good phone there. The Pixel or the Pixel XL. Now, that's not only still a relatively new phone, it's still a relatively high-priced phone. I mean, they're running anywhere from $500 to $700 still. If it's something that you want to pay up front and you know you're not going to have any blowback from bloatware, I would get that as well. If you want a phone with a decent camera, 7 Plus, I'm sorry. 7 Plus or S8, you're going to run into a contest. And at that point, it's just what you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with the Android, go with the S8 or the Pixel. If you're comfortable with iOS, just go with the 7 Plus. It'll give you less headache in the long run. Now, I've also had the question that people asked, what is the best smartphone for the overall money? You're going to be awfully surprised what I'm about to tell you here. Considering I didn't think 2 cents of their X model in 2014 or 2015. If you can get a hold of the Moto Pure Edition from 2015, or you can get a hold of the Moto G Play editions, especially the Moto G4 Play right now, it's not bad at all. I mean, you can get it anywhere from $139 on Amazon all the way to $150 at Walmart. And you won't have an issue on that. The Nokia phones, even though they're Amazon subsidized, you might pay as little as $150 for some of those phones. If you don't mind the fact that you're going to get an Amazon advertisement on every lock screen, that's not a bad phone. I would get that phone. Basically what I'm saying is the phones that you get are up to you. Don't get a new phone because all of us here in the tech media are pining for it. Because we're all known to have opinions, and opinions are more or less like certain items, and they all, to a certain extent, stink. You get the phone that is right for you. You get the phone that does what you want it to do. If you want it to keep notes and you want it to be able to get pages, something out of the Note series might be your choice. If you're stuck on a phone that you want a QWERTY keyboard on and something that's going to have the security like a thumbprint scanner on it, BlackBerry Key 1, I would go to that in a heartbeat. The BlackBerry Priv didn't have it. I mean, that's a secondary option if you want to go there. I never had any problems with the Priv. The only problem I had with the Priv is it died on me. And it's a shame because had that phone not died on me, I wouldn't have even upgraded to any of the phones I have right now. I'm sorry, I wouldn't have. Even though it's the S8 and the S8 Plus, I would not have upgraded. My opinion. So, I also have many recommendations on the HTC One M7 and the M8. The M7's not a bad phone at all. Be sure you get the 32 gig variant minimum. It may have a bad camera if you try to shoot low light. You're not going to have that bad of a camera if you're shooting just for Instagram. Same thing goes for the M8. The M8 even has the FA even has the focus. I want to say focus pixel, but that's not it. They have the depth effect eyeball, which would help adjust the focus of the camera after the fact. If you can get a hold of one of them for a reasonable amount of money, do it. If you need a place that you need it found, check Amazon. If you need a Sony and you happen to be outside of the States, check Carphone Warehouse. I'm sure they've got them stacked galore. And I'm also sure they've got, I'm trying to remember, 28 Mobile has a bunch of phones that you can get. 28mobile.com. It's a very, very, very respectful company. Along with Negri Electronics. I actually bought a device from Negri a long while back. I'm not exactly sure if they're still 100% in business or not. I'm pretty sure it is. Negri's run by a good guy. Well, it was run by an awesome guy, but it's run by good people now. So check those out if you have any questions. And feel free to leave me an email, show@techfilesmedia.com. Follow me at TechFiles. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. TechFiles Media is my backup. I'm available on both of those. If you have any questions or any comments, feel free to leave me a message. I'll be more than happy to get back to you. And I'm not just telling you a bunch of BS. I actually mean it. You send me a message, I will give you a response. It may not be the response that you want, and it may not fix what problem you have. But you'll know a little bit more by the time you're at the end of it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I thank you for your time this evening, this morning, whatever the case may be for you. And thank you for inviting me into your homes, your cars, your ears. And I will leave you alone for the rest of the weekend in the States. Australia, enjoy your Monday afternoon. United Kingdom and my Europe listeners, please enjoy the rest of your Monday. We will talk to you all later. We can be followed on Google Play Music, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, TuneIn.com, PodcastAddict.com, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Pocketcast. And of course, none of this would be possible without our hosting services at Spreaker. Thank you, Spreaker, for your support for the podcast. Once again, any questions or comments, show@techfilesmedia.com. Leave a 5-star review, leave any review. Leave a comment on the page that the podcast is on. If my podcast is not on your favorite podcatcher, let me know which one it is, and we will submit it on such. Here's another clue. I have submitted my podcast to Spotify. It probably will not go, just being an honest person as I am, but that's okay. I will give it all the time in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you very much for your listenership this evening or this morning, or whatever the case may be for you. Have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you next time. Ladies and gentlemen, stay classy. Ladies and gentlemen.